Welcome to this session around conversational AI, and we'll spend a little bit of time on contact center AI in particular, so I hope that's interesting. I know that at 5:30 in the evening in London, it's usually a pub. It's not so much here, but if you're here, that means you're really interested, so that's good, and I'm happy to have you here. So I'm Antony Passemard. I lead the product management team for our conversational AI at Google Cloud, and I'll be joined by Passemard from Marks & Spencer, which you probably know really well, to tell his story about how they implemented some of our contact center AI technology. A little bit of an agenda, conversational AI first. We'll say very generic on what we do in terms of speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and dialog flow. Then we'll talk about contact center AI, and mostly through what Akash is going to say in the Marks & Spencer use case. And then we'll look a little bit deeper under the hood of what are the technologies that are creating that solution for you in the contact center. So we're living through a really interesting time right now. We're really shifting from very old technology to a completely new way of doing contact centers. It's a little bit of a rebirth of voice. We've had voice for a long time, but voice is actually not going away. The cool thing is that now, with more voice search on your phone, with Google Home that you can speak to, with voicemail transcription, with YouTube transcription, all of that technology that Google has put and all that effort that Google has done to understand voice better, to provide better service to the consumer and create products that people love, we're now benefiting from in the cloud use cases and to serve contact center. So that's really applying a lot of research and technology to a true enterprise use case that brings a ton of value. And I feel it's more of a revolution than an evolution, because this all happened in the last maybe 2 to 4 years, really. Before that, there was almost no AI in contact center. I was at Salesforce in 2011, and in Service Cloud, there was no talk of that at all. So it's a pretty cool time. But what's really important to remember is that quality of the speech-to-text in particular is critical. All speech-to-text technologies are not equal. It's actually pretty complicated to do speech-to-text well, and depending on channel. So having the best quality you can is going to be critical to the success of your customer experience, to better understand what people are saying to you in the context of their support and their experience with you. So we're seeing that shift with high-quality voice transcription. We're seeing the shift from those clunky kind of speech transcription system that you may have played with that required a lot of tuning, a lot of professional services, and they were pretty costly, to more auto-tune models driven by state-of-the-art AI, obviously, that is trained on TPUs, that we can really iterate fast on those models and improve those models really, really quickly to bring you the best we can get you. We're moving from robotic voices. If you've heard text-to-speech, it's very robotic. We're moving to much more natural-sounding voices, much more engaging voices, and you're going to see that. I'm going to do a little demo. We're moving from those rule-based trees, those IVRs, press 1, press 2, press 3, and oftentimes it's 0 because you want to talk to an agent. We're moving away from that to way more of a conversation where it's more free-form, it's more like you would engage with a human. And we're also changing the way you search knowledge and surface knowledge to your human agent, your live agents, and really bringing that information proactively to the agents instead of having them search and remember shortcuts or having little post-its on their desktop. We're really bringing a new way to bring that knowledge, surfacing that knowledge to customers. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of that is due to the research that Google has put through entities like Google AI or DeepMind. DeepMind, for example, worked extensively on the Wavenet, which is our voice technology. They're creating a lot of new ways to do machine learning. You think about deep learning, comes a lot from those guys. It's deep research rooted in the value add that Google is creating for customers. Google could not create the magic that you have in your search, in your YouTube, and all of that without this kind of research, without this kind of technology. And we're really benefiting from those products, Search Assistant, YouTube, et cetera, that you've been using. We're really benefiting from that. Luckily, it's a one-way street. Google doesn't give data to them. We just get it from them, which is cool. So our goal is really to create engaging conversation through that are really close to what you would get with a human. And we say close because our goal is not to replace human really in those conversations, it's to be as good as. And we don't want to be deceiving when you're deploying an IVR, a voice IVR, or any kind of conversational system. You want to be clear with your customers that they are engaging with a bot. It's not cool to actually say, hey, you're talking to somebody and fake that you're a human. That's not the goal. You really have to be transparent with your customers and make them feel like they're actually talking to a bot, but a very smart one. And that's done through understanding, speaking, and interacting. And we'll dive a little bit into that. So understanding comes from two things. One is speech-to-text needs to be very flawless. It needs to be super high accuracy. We need to really understand the voice and transcribe it into a text. But once you've done that, you need to understand what was said exactly. Transcribing is not enough, and that's more the role of an NLU engine. And really trying to understand what are people trying to do, what are they telling you, what are the entities, like dates and amounts and address and problem type that they're telling you. And those two are really what allows the AI to understand your customers. Our cloud speech-to-text API has been widely used in many, many use cases. And some of those metrics here are interesting. We support over 120 languages in this API and variances. We support automatic formatting. You can have up to 4 languages in auto-detect, so the system can know what you're speaking, and you can choose which languages are part of that auto-detection. And it's real time. Real time is very important because you don't want to have to wait a few seconds every time you say a sentence. That's not natural. That's not engaging for the customer. It needs to be really real time. And our cloud speech-to-text can really return the transcription on the fly and even fix it at the end of a sentence. If it returns something and realizes after the end of the sentence that it's not there, it can fix it and send you back the new version. So it's very, very real time, very engaging with customers, and that is the kind of quality that we're really thriving to provide you. Now that you understand in the inbound, like the customer talking to you, what about speaking back? And speaking back is done through our cloud text-to-speech API, which goes the other way. And there again, we've done a lot of enhancements. So I'll try to do a very quick demo. So if we can switch to, can you switch to the other one, to the laptop? Here we go. So here, I put a little sentence and say, happy to be here in London. I apologize, sorry, I have to read there. Apologize for standing in the way of your favorite pub. I chose the English language. We can choose from like a ton, I don't know, 30 or so. Choose your voice. I chose a Wavenet voice here versus a basic voice. The basic is a more robotic one. You want to use the Wavenet one. That's the cool one. And then you can choose different voices. We have about 187 voices to choose from, 92 being Wavenet. So I'll play that.
Happy to be here in London, and I apologize for standing in the way of your favorite pub.
Favorite tea, yeah, made a typo here. So it's really reading wrong if it's written wrong. But you see the English accent there. You could play and put like a French language and an English sentence. Kind of funny if you play with it. That's on cloud.google.com/text-to-speak. Really play with it. That's really the best way to do it. So let's go back to the presentation. So I invite you to play with that. We're always adding a ton. So very recently, I think it was about a month or two ago, we moved from 110 voices to 187 voices. So adding that all the time, trying to bring more voices so you can have a different voice than your neighbor doing also IVR and really choose the one you want. The Wavenet ones are the one you just heard, very natural sounding. More languages. We went from 20 languages to 32 languages recently. So you can really have a global deployment. And that API is very easily accessible through gRPC or REST. You can include pronunciation in your text to make sure that you pause or you have different numbers are said correctly. It's not just a number, but it's an amount. So the way you're going to say an amount is different. So you can put all those little tags in the text and make sure that the speech-to-text will speak the right way. And finally, interact. So interact is all about managing the conversation and the flow of the conversation. You have speech-to-text to understand what we said, text-to-speech to speak back, but you need to manage a conversation, grab intents, grab entities, keep context and flow through that conversation. And to have that, we have Dialog Flow. And Dialog Flow is a very simple UI where you create your intents and your entities and your fulfillment capabilities and your knowledge connectors. But Dialog Flow will manage the conversation for you. You don't have to create nodes. It's not a tree structure. It's free form. And you can choose, there's slot filling, so you can choose that some information are required before others, some information are required, some are not. But it's very easy to configure. There's actually a course on, if you know Coursera, there's a Google course about Dialog Flow that can teach you how to create a bot. Super easy. And Dialog Flow has been widely adopted. It's really becoming the standard in NLU today and in how to create bots. We reached over 1 million developers on the platform last August. It's growing really fast, still growing, so we're pretty happy about that. Also supports 32 languages, and that's important, in particular if you're going to use Dialog Flow for your IVR and create a conversational IVR, you want to have many languages, 32 of them. There's integration, 17 integration with things like Assistant, obviously, or Facebook, or whatever, asynchronous channels. Very flexible. And in terms of security, we support a HIPAA or PCI compliance. HIPAA doesn't matter here, but it tells you about the level of security. Dialog Flow can be used in the context of healthcare or banking and financial services because of the encryption at rest, encryption in transit, the non-data logging, et cetera. So really, really secure. And 2,000 intent per agent. That's, if you look at others, it's a pretty big number. Basically allows you to create bots that can handle a lot. So when you apply those technology into contact center, what you're really trying to do is answer a new trend from the customers. The trend we're seeing is that customers really want a lot more self-service. They want real time. It's 24/7. They want it now. They don't want to wait. And they want something that's personalized. And personalization is really important. You don't want to have a generic tree. You want to be able to fetch information in the back end and personalize the experience for your customers and fulfill requests directly also. Until now, you really had to do a trade-off if you wanted to do this kind of experience. You either had to increase your cost of your contact center, adding more people, training more your agents, and that would give a better CSAT in general. Or if you do less, then you have a lower CSAT. So you have to really balance that cost with the result and the customer experience you wanted to provide. But that with AI is changing. And that's the first time, I think, in the life of a contact center that we can do both. We can reduce cost at the same time as increasing the customer experience and satisfaction. So to illustrate that, I'll ask Akash Parmar to come on stage. He's an enterprise architect at Marks & Spencer, and Marks & Spencer has been a long-time customer of Dialog Flow, and I'll let you go through that.
Thank you very much, Antony. Hello, everyone. I'm Akash Parmar. I'm an enterprise architect at Marks & Spencer. Given we are in East London, I'm assuming everybody knows Marks & Spencer. Quick introduction. Marks & Spencer is one of the largest British retailer. We sell clothing, home, and food items in over 1,400 stores across 57 countries, and we have 50 international websites through which we trade as well. I'm here to talk about how Marks & Spencer automated call handling using natural language and conversational AI. So if you go back almost 2 years, even today, so we get about 14 million calls within our stores, contact center, and head office estate. These calls are managed, they were managed by very different platforms. People were managing it on their own. There were different IVRs, there were different reporting solutions, and there were different routing solutions. It was expensive, and it was not providing a good customer service. Just a typical store experience. So if you had called M&S store 2 years ago, you would go to the website, look for your nearest store number, you call the store number, you get an IVR. Press 1 for opening hours, press 2 to enter extension, press 3 for something else. Eventually, you'll hit 0, and you'll speak to someone. And that someone would be what we used to call as the switchboard person. He or she will answer the call, and then try to put you through an extension within the store. The call will most of the time ring because the person in store is busy talking to the customer, and then the call will bounce back to the switchboard. And this will go on in a loop for a while till either the customer gets frustrated and hangs up, or if you were lucky enough to get answered and you had a query about buying something, they would have to then transfer the call across to the contact center. So a very painful experience overall. So we had to come up with a strategy to solve this problem. And before we do anything, we start with what we call as a one-pager. So we say, OK, the best way to solve this problem is a natural language solution. So why don't we just get the customer to say what they want? They can then, they say it in their own words. We understand what they say. We then match that to an intent. We try and automate where we can. And if we can't, we should put them to the right place first time, whether it's the store or the contact center, wherever it is. So that's where we started. We make a lot of assumptions. Is natural language the right thing for M&S? Would the customer like it? If they like it, would they interact? If they interact, will we understand? Loads of assumptions. Start with that, and then what we built was what we call as the automated voice assistant platform. So a journey on this platform would be customer calls in. So first of all, we moved all our entry points for the calls to the Twilio platform. So now the calls were coming in from just one place, and it gave us total control over what we could do with those calls. So a call will come through Twilio. Twilio answers the call, and then it will hand over control to our application, which was hosted within our own Azure network. The application will ask the customer, please, can you tell us why you're calling? Customer leaves an utterance. Google Speech API then transcribes that utterance into text. We get the text back, hand it over to Dialogflow. Dialogflow has got our model. It will then return an intent. And based on an intent, either we try and self-serve, or we send it to the store, which is on our Mitel platform, or to the contact center, which runs on our Genesis platform. So it's a very different experience from what it was before. So we used Google Speech APIs. We also use Wavenet. So initially, when we were trying to play with text-to-speech, we tried the basic version. We tried different text-to-speech engines. But when we came across Wavenet, and it was very new at that time, it was a complete game changer for us, because we could go back to the whole noise about it's very robotic, totally disappeared. That the business loved it, and it allowed us to say, look, we put this in, and then we can add more and more self-service application. And that was a huge step forward for us. And then we also used things like Looker to display our real-time dashboard. And that was very helpful when we had to go out to the business and display the power of the platform. They can see what's happening in real time. You make a call. They can see the utterance. They can see the intent. So very, very useful tool for that as well. So this is what the new experience looked like. What did we achieve? We replaced the DTM of IVRs with natural language. We reduced calls to store by 50%. And we allowed almost 100 colleagues who were in the back office, in the switchboards, trying to manage these calls. They could be on the shop floor dealing with the customers. So building this platform was a lot of fun. And sometimes at the very start, we were like, we have to make sure that every word is transcribed accurately, trying to focus on, to get everything perfect. But soon we realized, when we are working with AI, different AI, what we have to do is to make sure they complement each other. They come together, and they work with each other properly. So here are a couple of examples around what we saw in the transcription. So a customer will call in, and they'll leave a voice prompt. Speech AI will transcribe it. Most of the time, it's perfect, but sometimes it's not. And then we had to kind of train the Dialogflow model to make sense of it. So initially, in the very few first days, we were getting a lot of calls about Jamaican orders. And we were like, what Jamaican food do we sell? Why is it so popular? But soon realized that this call was about to make an order. And it sounds very familiar. And then we just added an intent of place order to it, and the call started to go off to contact center team. So even if Speech API transcribed it slightly incorrectly, it was eventually ending up into the right place. And then we had some calls which was just showing Brad Pitt. I'm like, we have got no clue why Brad Pitt will call us. Maybe we won the Oscars. But soon we realized these calls were not about Brad Pitt. They were about Brafit. Big business for M&S, and the call needs to go to the Brafit section within store. So really powerful way to make things happen very, very quickly. A quick roundup on how we did it. So we always start with what we call as our experimentation phase. So very simply, we did phase one, which is intent capture. We didn't change anything. We just took some calls, and placed a simple message saying, please can you tell us why you're calling? The customer will leave an utterance, and we'll say, thank you very much. We'll use this to improve our customer service experience. Send the call downstream to exactly what it was doing before. We captured about 10,000 utterances, and then we created our first Dialogflow model out of it. And that phase we call as intent capture and analysis. So now we would capture the intent and try and assign that utterance to the right intent and see how accurate it was and evolve the model. And in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, we were at a stage where we were confident that we can now skip the IVR completely and send the call to the right place without asking them to press that option. And that became our intent capture, analysis, and routing solution. So we finished the experimentation in about 6 weeks. And then we knew for sure that this platform is going to deliver what we want to deliver. Then the idea was to productionize it. This is when you have to do master service agreement with different organizations. You have to get procurement involved. You have to get legal involved. Everybody knows it's a painful process to go through, but you have to go through it. And that took us about 4 or 5 months to achieve that. And at that stage, the platform was ready to take on load. And within 3 months from then, we migrated 650 stores in UK and Ireland onto this platform. Just a quick roundup about what we learned. So this was not a technology deployment for us. So this impacts people. This impacts processes. So you have to be mindful of that. People in the contact center who were busy recording prompts and loading prompts and changing prompts now are people who are training the bot. So completely different role for them, and they love doing that, absolutely. People in the stores who are taking calls now are on the shop front. So it changes what people do. It changes things in the business. So it's very important to be mindful of these facts when you are going down this journey. Quick sum up of what we achieved in the end. So it was a very big success. Today, almost 92. So initially, when we put this in, we saw loads of calls were just getting abandoned, and we couldn't work out why people abandon these calls. And soon we realized a minute or two later, another call is coming in, which is going through fine. And we realized that people were calling in, and they were being told, can you tell us why you're calling? And they're like, do I have to speak now? Why can't I press? And they just hang up in panic. And then they're like, OK, call again, ready to say something, and then they'll speak. And over time, the customer got used to it, and now almost 92% of the customers, they actually leave a good intent. Once we have the intent, we are able to match that intent using a Dialogflow model very, very accurately now. So up to 92% there as well. Transcription, which is about 89% at the moment. And even if we get the transcription wrong, we quickly train the model, and that's not a problem for us at all. We just carry on with it. So overall, a very positive experience for the customers. Future use cases. So now we understand what the customer problems are. We want to start solving it. So that's where we want to move. So we also want to kind of use the other tools from Contact Center AI in terms of real-time transcription and agent assist. So every call center has millions of hours of call recording sitting there doing nothing. If we can transcribe that in real time, redact any PCI, PI data, and get the value of it while the call is still on, that's going to be a complete game changer. So we definitely want to start looking at that as well. We now have what I call as the brain. We have created the brain out of Dialogflow. We can start plugging in different channels into it. So we do voice now. We can plug in chat. We can plug in SMS, WhatsApp. Any other channel can be plugged into it. We can start doing sentimental analysis and emotion detection. We can start doing personalized self-service applications. So it has opened up a world of opportunities for us. And last but not least, I wish Google had Conversational AI 18 months ago. It would have made our life a lot more simpler. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Akash. I mean, there's nothing better than a customer talking about your product like that. I was like, ooh, this is cool. Great results, great results. And the longest was actually to get the legal stuff. So that's pretty, pretty impressive. So you should start now, like right now, open an account, so you're good. All right, let's keep going. So let's see the insides a little bit of Contact Center AI. the way we like to think about contact center AI is through the lens of this little circle here. We have a conversational core. The conversational core is where all the intelligence is going to live. That's where you're going to create your flows. That's where you're going to have your speech to text, your text to speech. All the underlying technology will live in that center core. Think of it as the brain. And then you expose that technology or those capabilities through different channels. And you talked about thinking about more channels later in the future. That's exactly what it's for. So all the investment you've made into that conversational core, into that brain, can be used for live agents, can be used for virtual agents, can be used for getting insights. So if we look a little deeper into that core, it's really about hosting the intelligence and all the investment you make into your bots and your flows, et cetera, and your models. The ability to go off script, which is very important in Dialogflow. People don't follow a straight line when they call you. They'll ask supplemental questions and things like that, and the interaction of Dialogflow allows you to do that. And it's the versatile fulfillment, which is the ability to fulfill the request. Go in your backend system, fetch information, change something, and actually fulfill the request so you never have to escalate. So when you expose those capabilities to a virtual agent, the goal is to really get immediate answer. I talked about the real-time nature and the 24/7 use case. It's really getting those answers fast and not having the customer wait for opening hours or having to have somebody on the call. And having that transition to an agent seamlessly, if needed, which does still happen. We have another customer called Ticketmaster that uses Dialogflow in particular for ordering of tickets of shows. When you have on the mobile app, this is through a mobile channel, so not voice. You say, what can I help you with? And a Hamilton show in Chicago next week. You understand that next week is actually next week. It knows the date. It will know what next week means. It will know Chicago is a place. It will know Hamilton is the name of a show. This is the intelligence that Dialogflow brings, and then it proposes a bunch of tickets that you can buy. So that's their quote. We've created something that sounds pretty close to human. This is a good quote. I like it. Some of the new features that came in Dialogflow is about 3 years old now. It's been evolving very rapidly, and even more now than in the last few months and the coming months. It's pretty incredible how much we're building out of that. Some of the new features that I'll call out, not all of them, but one is auto speech adaptation. I really like this one. This is a fairly recent one. Auto speech adaptation will allow the speech model to be dynamically biased toward certain entities that you're trying to extract from each intent. And it's doing it dynamically at each intent level of your flow. And what it does is that even if you don't say something correctly, you will bias the recognition, the model, to recognize that word or that entity and detect the right one and then flow to the next intent or provide the right fulfillment. When Akash was saying that it doesn't matter that much if the word is not recognized correctly, what really matters is that the flow is successful and you can help your customers. And that's changing the conversation a little bit. This kind of speech adaptation and the way we're doing it is pretty unique to Google. And there's a lot of advancement and machine learning behind this. And you're going to see a lot more of speech adaptation technology in our tools. The other one is the one-click built-in sentiment analysis. It's just a checkbox. And then you get a sentiment score for everything, every utterance you pass. The built-in text-to-speech, one click, starts speaking back. The auto-spelling correction is what you're used to when you go on Google and you search and you do typos. It will say, did you mean? And it will do the actual thing you wanted to type. It's the same backend that's powering now chats in particular, so you can fix that and get a better transcription. Some of the upcoming one is the IVR integration. This is in alpha, and we're working with a lot of our telephony partners to have IVR integration. And the agent validation is something that you're going to see popping out in your console in December. The agent validation is about understanding how your bot behaves, the flow between intent, how many of those intents are matched, the drops, the training phrases that are overlapping and confusing, the intents that are overlapping. So you'll really understand what's happening in your bot and be able to optimize those bots. Akash mentioned a few times that you were retraining the model. You don't really need machine learning experts to do that. It's all about using Dialogflow and the tools in Dialogflow to retrain, put more sentences, more training phrases, more entities. And the system will retrain itself. So it's a different time skill set. You don't need data scientists to do that. You need conversational specialists. That's more the type of profile you need. But a lot of innovations going to Dialogflow, and this product, hopefully will get even better throughout next year. In terms of fulfillment capability, I mentioned that a few times. You need the bot to be able to call backend systems. And that's what's going to make the experience personalized. If you can call backend system like your CRM and your ERP and propose different things based on the profile of your customer, that's a personalized experience. Oh, you're a gold customer, I'll get you this. Or you're a platinum customer, I'll get you that. Different responses for the same intent detection. That's really important to be able to do that, and Dialogflow can do webhooks or cloud functions to do that. We just released MTLS connectivity for that, so to have better security between those endpoints. And there's more coming on that end, so you can do a lot more with those fulfillments. This has been a big ask from the largest contact center we have to do more in the fulfillment capabilities. The knowledge service is also really interesting. The knowledge service allows you to use a knowledge base that already exists on your website. We can crawl that website. We do that really well at Google. We can crawl things pretty well. And then bring that in the knowledge base and surface that when an intent is matched to one of the questions you have on your FAQ. So you can just maintain that public FAQ, and this will be surfaced in your bot. So very easy to use the investment you've made already in your support website. So now that same conversational core can be used for Agent Assist. And Agent Assist is a new product. I'm actually happy to tell you this went GA last week. So it's been used for a while, but this went GA last week. And that's a big change because it makes actually our CCI GA. And now you can use it. It's ready to go. So Agent Assist is more something that's facing a live agent. It's going to transcribe conversation between a human agent and a customer in real time. We'll get that feed, that stream, and then transcribe the conversation with diarization, so you see who's saying what, and show that to the agent in the console. Based on that, you can detect intent, detect entities like Dialogflow is doing. It's using the same NLU, the Conversational Core, and we'll start recommending proactively either responses or documents, or even show a chat bot to the live agent. It can show a bot that understands that conversation, can help the live agent. So really changing how your agent can interact with the customers, reduces the average handle time drastically, also helps with call disposition at the end, because all the conversation is recorded. And it also helps, one more thing that people tend to forget, you have a transcription of all your calls. And that's a cool thing, because now you can do a lot of analytics with it. So that's something an added value of Agent Assist is that all the analytics now is very possible. You don't have to retranscribe all those calls that you've been storing for years. They're transcribed in real time, and you can use them for insights. So Agent Assist GA, some of the features, Document Assist is that recommendation of suggestion, but we're also preparing new features. Some of them is the smart reply. If you've used Gmail, you know when you type your Gmail, there's some responses that are shown when you receive those emails. Smart reply is the same thing, using the same backend to propose responses for agents. This is actually better than the one in Gmail because it's more constrained as a domain, and it can propose full replies, which is really cool. The virtual agent assist is presenting a bot, and the entity extraction is for call disposition. We have customers doing that. And it reduces the call disposition at the end of the call when the agent types in what was said. Reduces it by 10 to 15 seconds per agent. It's pretty impressive. And I'm also super happy to say that we have now a telephony-optimized model for UK English, which was missing. We could only do US until now, so we have UK English. We also have Spanish and Russian, if you want. So there's 4 languages now. But this is really enabling contact center AI and agent assist in the UK specifically. So I'm happy that this is available. So now let's talk about insights. Insights, the target of insights is not really the agent, although they can use it for sentiment in real time. But the target of insights is more the people that are surrounding the contact center, the team leads, the QA managers, the business stakeholder, the product managers, and they want to know what's going on. That's the feedback we hear all the time. I don't know what's going on in my contact center. It's very piecemeal. I get a little information from an agent or two. Because you use Agent Assist and you transcribe everything, flows into our analytics engine, and now you can start surfacing the right calls for your QA to listen. They won't listen to many, many calls that really don't matter. They'll only listen to the good ones. The product manager will be able to see trends or problems with their product in real time. And the team lead will know, if some agents are struggling or taking longer than they should, and can coach those agents much more efficiently. So having that full visibility over the entire realm of conversation that you have in your contact center is something pretty new. And that's really driving a lot of insights about what's going on in your contact center. You can do better forecasting. You can do a lot of things with this analytics. But it's same thing, using the same core, conversational core, and an NLU engine. This is a screenshot of what it's going to look like. There's a version today that exists, doesn't look like that. That's a new version. Looks a little better, but it's really enabling things like what are the topics that are discussed, enable search on conversation, which is really interesting, navigating transcripts, so being able to see, here you're seeing a conversation, you see flags of sentiment, you can see the transcription on the left, and you can see, for example, you can start thinking about, what about compliance? Did that person say X or Y that they were supposed to say in that call? Those things you can do now, you have the transcript. So that's really enabling a lot of use cases, and we're really happy. There's going to be quite a lot of investment in that area over the next year. So now you're thinking, OK, I like that. That's all cool. How do I enable that in my contact center? And we've worked extensively with partners to enable that. And the reason why is we really thought that it's not a good idea to go and propose something that will require you to rip and replace everything you got. You've put a lot of investment in your contact center. You have a telephony partner in place most of the time. I mean, yeah, if you have a contact center, you have a telephony partner. And we wanted to really make sure that you can get access to the AI, the technology there, through those partners, and make sure they turn it on for you and enable it in the console that you're used to have, through the IVR that you're used to have, but making them more smart with cloud CCAI. So we have Avaya and Mitel are GA today. The others are some are closer to GA than others, but most of them are enabling CCAI to be part of your contact center. So you don't need to go in a big project and rip and replace everything. We're also building our SI partner ecosystem with some of those here. So some of the GSI here, and Quantify is a small kind of medium-sized SI that's very good in AI that we've been working with a lot. We're going to add more local ones. There's a lot that I don't have logos here, but in the UK, there's quite some good ones that can help you build the bots, build those conversations, make sure it's integrated correctly with your telephony partner. But the goal was really to make it easy for you to adopt that technology without spending a year or a year and a half replacing your contact center solution. So to conclude, we're really, I think, bringing what's today the cutting edge of technology for AI and speech. There's still a lot more to do. There's a heavy investment in speech, in particular, and NLU. And we're really excited about what's coming. But I think it's really the time to start. Everything is GA today. Some customers are already getting value from it. There's really no reason to wait. It's the time to start. And I would really invite you to either contact your telephony partner, if it's Avaya, Genesis, whoever it is. Contact them, see what they can offer, get them to do a demo. We love to do bake-offs with others, because we're usually successful. So we love to do that. And it's just a matter of starting now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll let you go. Thank you. We actually have a little bit of time for questions. We have 8 minutes left for questions, if you want.
Any questions?
If there's a question there. You want to come up, Kash?
Thank you. I just have a very down-to-earth operational question. How do you get the labeled data sets to train your AI? The audio and everything else?
You mean in general for Dialogflow? So a lot of the speech-to-text data comes from Assistant and YouTube and like some of those public channels that we have. So we get basically they train models. We bring them in, and and then we use them. It's pretty easy. So it's mostly coming from the Google kind of core search team.
Would you need to tailor it? So, for example, for a contact center for an insurance company, would you customize somehow?
No, but you will need to use the telephony optimized models. So some of the models that Google is creating for us is based on telephony conversation. And then you would need to use, that's why we only have US English, UK English, and Spanish, and not the 120 languages, because they have to be trained on telephony data, people actually speaking with 8 kilohertz quality, kind of crappy, and background noise and all of that. So we do get specific model for telephony from Google to serve those use cases. So there are different models.
Hey, have you looked into authorization in terms of voice? Because it's a totally different medium than in chat, where you can verify in terms of other places.
Yeah, there's several areas of research there. There's research that we're doing internally that does voice identification, which is not authorization or authentication. It's a little bit different, because otherwise I could record you and authenticate you. So it says it's you, but is it you? I don't know. So we have research there. The other thing is we've seen some teams create bots that will ask you all those questions that you ask usually when you're on the phone. They say, oh, can you give me your date of birth, and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be a human asking that. It could be a bot. So creating bots that ask you all those questions for identification is something that we've actually seen people do.
How do you become an integration partner?
We are enabling what we call C specialists, C champions in each region. Right now, they're mostly US. So we're actually next week, we're doing a training globally to get people in Europe. Those C champions will be experts on Dialogflow and CCI and can train then partners if you're willing to do that. So, and we also have budget to help you do that, by the way, help you become a CCI integrator.
Hello, question for Akash. Regarding the team, what kind of profile you have in this team? Do you have data scientists, those kind of profiles? And second, how big was the team actually to make that happen?
Yeah. So when we started the experimentation phase, we were a very small team, about 3 or 4 people. So we were just doing the experimentation with that team. And then when it went on to productionize and scale out, that's when we grew to it. Because to do the experimentation, we just needed the basic application. We then pointed the phone number to that, and we were just looking at what the results were. After that, when we went to productionization, we had to kind of create our whole Azure platform. We had to create DevOps around it. We have to create security around it. So at the peak of the project, including the time we were deploying it to stores using Scrum Masters and project managers, we grew up to about 25, 30 people. And then after the platform was live, people in the ops field who were doing jobs which were no longer needed, they became the people who were training them all. So we had no data scientists at all in this whole journey. And from day one, especially for Dialogflow, from day one, it was a business tool. It was never an IT tool, because when a customer says something, it's the people in the business, in the ops, who know exactly what that meant. And they were the best people to train and create the model. So they built the model from the very first day. And then now what happens is, there's a team. So we are coming into Christmas. So if there is a new promotion, anything else which we know about, they would kind of train the model around it, so some new intents around it. So the reaction time is very, very quick. And it is all done by, most of the people were already there doing other jobs in ops now. And we have a small team which manages, if there is an issue or something like that in like our IT department. But other than that, there was no data scientists involved.
Just a question for Akash. How long did it take to the end-to-end process? How long did it take to implement and develop this?
So the experimentation phase was about 6 weeks. So we had a product which we knew worked in 6 weeks. Then going through all the legal procurement and all that took about 5 more months. And then we were so confident that the platform is good and stable. In 3 months, from 0 stores, we scaled out to 650 stores. And after that, we moved on to the contact centers. And in about 4 months from there, we moved all our contact center numbers onto this platform.
Thank you.
Time for one more.
Who's it going to be?
Question. So, do you still have normal IVR next to a free speech enabled? So, if for example, the bot doesn't understand the intent, do you send customer to choose option 1, 2, or 3, or you just go directly to a coworker?
So what we have done is, at the start of the project, we knew there were utterances we won't understand. There were utterances that the intent, we won't get that intent. So we created a small team in the contact center, and we call it the breakout skill, basically. So any call which we have no clue about goes to that team, and then that team feeds back to the guys who manage Dialogflow, saying, OK, this was about things like that graph fit in Jamaican order. In the start, we don't know what that is. And as soon as somebody in the business reads that, they know exactly what's going on, and they train the model. So it started off, I think we started about 10 to 15%. The calls were going to that team. And then over time, that has come down drastically now. So that's how we did it. But we decided at the very start, this is a natural language platform, and we want to keep it that way. So we don't want to have any other IVRs, press 1, press 2, anywhere in the platform.
There are IVR features that are, like, that's where we're building the IVR integration. Things like barge in, for example, timeouts, retries, things like that. Those are features that you wouldn't have in a conversational platform that we're adding to Dialogflow. That's the kind of stuff that is in alpha right now, is to support more IVR type of feature without still going to a tree.
And just one more point. So there were use cases where actually putting in numbers are easy. So for like extensions, if you want to go to an extension in store, we did open up saying, say the extension, or you can type it in. So that kind of gave the flexibility to the customer, because some people were used to it, so don't take that away. But it is part of the platform, and it can understand DTMF as well.
All right. Well, that's about it. So thank you very much for being here at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.